Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 128, Meno 91a to c. Anytus has made the mistake that even people today would make, that we would send someone who wants to study a particular subject to people who claim to be able to teach that subject and make money from teaching that subject. It's a mistake because Socrates then detailed the virtue which he says Meno wants to learn, and he gives all the characteristics of Anytus himself. So really, Anytus is now stuck because he isn't a teacher, he doesn't claim to teach, and he doesn't make money from teaching this subject, although he is a good man, according to him, the way he sees things, and the way other people see him. He is in a powerful position, and he knows how to host foreigners, and we may presume that he knows how to respect his parents. We don't know about his mother at all, but we've heard a lot about his father. Socrates is about to ask who they should send Meno to in order to learn about this virtue, and Anytus knows that he's the best person for the job, but he's already agreed that they have to send him to people who claim to teach it and make money. This is the problem. Socrates has set up this problem, but in fact it's the fault of Anytus that he agreed to questions which Socrates asked. He didn't have to go along with everything Socrates asked. To be fair, Anytus didn't know what the thing was that Meno wanted to learn. And we know that Meno didn't want to learn anything. This is a straight lie by Socrates. Anytus had agreed that in general this is what one does. Normally, the proper teacher of a subject is the one who claims to teach it, and we see that he makes money from teaching it, which implies that he must be good at teaching the subject. Unfortunately for Anytus, Socrates basically describes Anytus and then immediately asks about the teachers. Tauten unten areten scope, paratinas an pempontes auton orthos pempoimen. Examine then this virtue by sending him to which people would we send him correctly. It seems to me now that Anytus balks, he doesn't answer immediately, and Socrates has to prompt him. E deilon de kataton artilogon, hoti paratutus tus hupis chnumenus aretes didascalus enai, kai apophenantas hautus koinus ton Helenon to bulomeno manthanen, misthon tu taxamenus te kai pratomenus. Is it clear, according to the argument just now, that we should send him correctly to those who claim to be teachers of virtue and reveal themselves to be common to any one of the Greeks who wishes to learn, having fixed a wage for this and are now making money from this? Saying that these people reveal themselves to be common to any one of the Greeks who wishes to learn may be seen as an appeal to the democratic side of Anytus. These teachers are common in the sense that they are open to teach anybody so long as the people are prepared to pay the wage that they have fixed. In effect, this makes the teachers open to the rich only, the ones who can afford their prices. Anytus himself is rich, as Socrates himself has already gone to the trouble of pointing out. These teachers could be said to be democratic in that they don't care who they teach so long as they get their money, but it might be more accurate not to describe them as democratic but as mercenary. And I wonder whether Socrates is having a dig at Anytus himself, who seems to behave in a mercenary way, although he presents himself as a democrat. There is one other small point in Socrates' question, and that is concerning the argument which they had just now, according to which we send people who need to learn something to teachers who claim to teach the subject and make money from teaching it. It is not the case that the original argument was about teachers of virtue, but this is what we now have. We should be sending, according to the argument just now, we should be sending Meno to those who claim to be teachers of virtue. In fact, we should be sending Meno to those who claim to teach the particular virtue which Socrates says Meno wants to learn. There were teachers of virtue, but the virtue they taught wasn't the virtue which Socrates is describing here. What he's describing is Anytus, or at least the way that Anytus would like to present himself. The virtue that some people taught was how to get on in life, how to be better than others, how to lie and persuade other people to do what you want them to do. I suspect that the moment Socrates said teachers of virtue, Anytus already knew where this was going, and he really doesn't like the teachers of virtue. Here's his response: Kaitinas leges tutus, O Socrates. And whom do you say these are, Socrates? Socrates makes it clear that he knows that Anytus knows who he's talking about. Oistade pukaisu, hoti hutoiesin hus hoi anthropoi kalusi sophistas. Even you know that these are whom the people call sophists. It's interesting that Socrates makes yet another appeal to democracy. The people say, or just humans. I mean, hoi anthropoi could be just human beings normally, but he could also have just said people who are called sophists, but he goes out of his way to say the people call them sophists. And according to the principles of democracy, Anytus should accept that. If the people say, then he should support it. We should note that Socrates says sophists, not the sophists, because it isn't the case that all sophists were sophists of virtue. They were not all teachers of virtue. A sophist, by the way, is someone who's a professional in Sophia. He teaches Sophia. What is Sophia? Expertise. So the name sophist means something like expertician. It doesn't really tell us what they teach. To say that they teach wisdom begs the question, what is wisdom? Sophia means expertise. Wisdom, if at all, will be expertise in the art of living. However, there were sophists who taught actual subjects like geometry, arithmetic, astronomy, and they could teach people to be experts in those subjects. So it isn't the case that all sophists simply taught wisdom, and I prefer to avoid the word wisdom altogether. The people call them sophists, so we might expect Anytus to accept that they are teachers of virtue. Here is his response. Heracles, eupheme, O Socrates. Hercules, speak well, Socrates. Speak well is like saying, wash your mouth out with soap and water. He carries on his rant. Meidena ton gemon, mete oikeon, mete philon, mete aston, mete xenon, toiaute mania laboi, hoste paratutus elthonta lobe thenai, epei hutoi gefanera esti lobe te kai diaphthora ton sungignomenon. May such a great madness not take any one of my household members or my friends, whether a townsperson or a xenos, that they would go to these people and be ruined, since these, obvious is the ruin and the corruption of those who associate with them. The last part of that sentence is badly constructed, but we may put it down to Anytus being very upset. What I have translated as ruin may also be understood as an outrage, and it's interesting that Anytus also uses the noun for corruption, diaphthora, which is reminiscent of the accusation against Socrates. One of the crimes he is accused of is corrupting the youth. So we can see here that Anytus is connected with the notion that sophists corrupt, and we happen to know that Anytus is also one of the sponsors of the trial of Socrates. All these points together indicate that Socrates was considered a sophist. And he was considered a sophist by someone who knew that he didn't claim to teach anything, and he didn't make money from teaching. Why is Anytus so opposed to sophists? We don't know, but we can speculate. First of all, it must have been offensive to Anytus to be equated at all with the sophists. After all, it's his own character which they are said to be able to teach. He is a powerful Athenian, and what are these sophists? They are travelling teachers. Most of them are not Athenian. Anytus' much vaunted hospitality towards xenoi extends only as far as those foreigners whom he hosts. There is a whole group of xenoi, the sophists, whom Anytus, for some reason, despises. At least we may be sure that he doesn't host any of them. In Plato's dialogues, they were usually hosted by aristocrats.